because, again, I was listening to it locally here in Phoenix. And the response, I was almost convinced because they said, well, why would he go anywhere? He just signed a max contract. They've got Ayton, another young superstar. They're bringing in veteran free agents and they're looking to build decent free agents. They brought in a great coach.
Fantastic coach.
Why would he want to leave? And for a second there, I was like, yeah, why would he want to leave? But it only took a second before I remembered. Oh, wait, Sarver is the owner. Hey guys, welcome here. We actually probably have maybe at the moment we think it's going to be a short podcast this week, but we'll see if it actually stays short. But welcome to the second pod of the week. I'm actually checking my watch here because I got to get my stopwatch going. But anyway, so welcome. Good to see you guys again. We hit basketball really heavily earlier this week, and we're going to touch on it a little bit because a couple things did happen. We also have an apology, a retraction that needs to be said, I guess. Someone thought he was misinterpreted, he misspoke. So I will actually give that to Jonathan, his chance to fix what he said.
Yeah, I extremely misspoke. I totally thought when I was saying my Bam take, I said for his age. I think Bam is a top 5 center right now. I don't think he's the best center. I think that what my take that he is. I still think he's probably the second best player in the East, but that says a lot more to do about the East being shallow. I think I would, if we're counting Davis as a center, if you're counting Anthony Davis as a center, I think Bam's probably the second or third best center. I think Jokic night to night can be better. I know Ben is mad. I still do not think. I believe that Jokic is always better than Bam. Bam had a really bad night last game they played. But so did Jokic the last game they played, had a really bad night. So it's just –
the thing that – I mean, this is the kind of thing – I think what Jokic does, and I think this is one reason why I put Jokic – I think Jokic is absolutely a top 10 player in the league. But it's stuff I've also noticed. I remember – looking in college, some of my college friends, when I would watch them play, when he knows his shot isn't falling, he changes his game and tries to affect it in another way.
Mm-hmm.
If he noticed, I can't get rebounds because this guy is doing something, he changes his game and affects it another way. You know what? They're playing too tight a D. I can't get assists. I'm going to change my game and play it another. He adapts. So if when he vanishes, he doesn't actually vanish. Now, he may start doing stuff that doesn't appear on a stat sheet, but he doesn't actually vanish.
Yeah. Well, with your rebuttal, both Bam and Jokic got blown out in the last games they played. So, not necessarily, but that's why I don't think either one of them are I wouldn't I have a hard and fast, probably 10 guys I think are top 10. And then I've probably got like 15 to 20 guys who you could tell me they're 11, and I'd be like, okay.
What I would I guess maybe it's not even that hard and fast. When I look at lists, I'll look at guys that if I've got a bunch of friends together and we're doing a 2K team fantasy draft.
Yeah.
Am I going to be happy and think I can win that? Now, I'm not that actually great at 2K, so I wouldn't win. But can I be happy with my team with this guy as my best player? if I have Jokic as my best player, I'm through the roof. Like, I'm stoked. All right, I've got Jokic as my best player. Now, again, as long as there's certain other pieces I do want in place there, but if I use my best player, I'm happy. If I was any good at 2K, I could go all the way. If I've got Bam as my best player, I really got to do better in these next. I really got to make sure I've got great picks later on in this draft.
So I think Bam and Jokic, that's part of the reason I think both the Nuggets and Heat are not favorites of mine in their respective conferences, because I see them both as number 2 guys that are masquerading as number 1 guys. I think with Bam, it's a little easier because Jimmy is there. And then Jokic, my goodness, if Murray comes back, it's really a moot point because they've got like 4 or 5 guys that are great number 2 guys. Maybe they don't have a number 1 dude, but they're deep.
And, I've said this, and we were kind of talking about this off, and I'll kind of add this part here to that. I think that a lot of guys, maybe in your eyes, with all due respect, and I know that gets thrown away as a weird phrase that means that I'm actually about to – but not that I think that there are times that you and a lot of other people get – and this is something I've always kind of said about the Nuggets of being overlooked, because they don't do media, because they don't do national media. They don't do these – they don't get – now, part of it, I think it's because they play for the Nuggets. Like, they don't – no one wants to discover. I still remember, I mean, we've talked about it on the pod, but when being interviewed by national media, like, oh, look, Jokic is boring and he can't really give an interview. Man's nickname is Joker. Your interviewer just sucked. Like,
oh, yeah, for real.
He has this huge personality that doesn't get a chance to show. And so I think that kind of comes through when you say, well, we don't have a 1. It's because – well, you don't have a guy that dominates and controls stuff. Well, you don't have a guy that's getting national commercials. And they don't get national commercials because they play in Denver.
So I'll give a quick rebuttal to this. The reason everyone's worried about sports right now is because how they make all their money is selling tickets. And part of it is you need a marketable person to sell tickets around. And it makes it easier. And when you sell tickets and you're a profitable franchise, it makes it easier to convince free agents to come there. That's why guys like LeBron, who even their on-court stuff affects their off-court stuff because he's so personable. It's why I think Zion is a top – Zion's one of my guys that if you want to kick him out of my top 10 because of talent. I don't think he's talented top 10, but his marketability is so far through the roof.
Well, and marketability in that is just, and that's also kind of what I was getting at is I feel like a lot of these guys are super marketable, but they're just the powers that be choose not to market them. Like I said, Jokic is incredibly if you're look at some of look at the Nuggets videos. Look at the team. He is incredibly charismatic. He is incredibly fun. He's incredibly marketable. But he's a white Serbian guy, and
but also
he sounds like the bad guy. He sounds like the bad guy from Die Hard, and that's always going to struggle.
He does kind of. But here's another issue with him. The point and the name of the game is – what's the name of the game, Ben?
Win dunk contests?
No. What is the name of the game?
Get the biggest shoe deal possible?
No. The name of the game is basketball.
Okay.
Is basketball. And Jokic has a bad habit of not really getting his own basket all the time when he should. He is really good. I think we had one of the most ludicrous takes of all of this. One of the most ludicrous takes in all of this that almost made me feel like I didn't need to clarify my Bam statement was Greg Popovich saying that Jokic is Larry Bird. Larry Bird was a walking bucket. And Jokic has not proven to me that when the going gets tough, he's going to get his own bucket. And again, that hurts guys like Bam. It really severely hurts guys like Draymond, who I think show up in the stat sheet more than scoring. But and it hurts guys that scoring is not their forte in these discussions. And Jokic is having a career year. He's averaging 20 points a game this year, which is great. But it's not otherworldly from that when you've got guys like Karl Anthony Towns, you've got guys like Anthony Davis, you've got guys that really do score the basketball at a high rate, and I can trust them to go get a bucket and not trust them to think, well, maybe I can come off passive sometimes.
It kind of strikes. I mean, when Russ was averaging triple doubles, it was not passive when he was getting his assists. That was not seen as passive. And I think that's kind of a Jokic thing. But he goes through, he finds things, and just look at the videos, look at his passing.
Jokic is
he's setting up.
And I'm about to make Kyle real mad. Jokic is the best big man passer in NBA history. I have no qualms making that statement. But I think Greg Popovich compared him to a multiple-time MVP in Larry Bird. I don't think Jokic is that type of player. If we want to compare him to another, I'll even give another multiple-time MVP that I think he could be. Moses Malone. A guy who has a lot of individual numbers and accolades, but didn't quite put it all together and get the height of pinnacle team success until he had another one of those guys around him.
And that's another part. I love, and whether, I don't think we can win the championship this year, but I love the way the Nuggets are constructed.
The Nuggets are so young; their timetable is so far out.
It's so far out, but just the way they're put together as teams you can see. You may say it as a bad thing, but I love that on any given night, they've got 5, sometimes 6 guys who can get you 30. And you wouldn't be like, oh man, I really didn't see that coming tonight. No, there's 6 guys sometimes who can take over the game.
Yep. But until they find that guy who's going to be, all right, who are we going to give it to in crunch time?
Whoever is the guy that game. Whoever is it. I think this whole fascination about finding the guy. And they said this. Part of it. This is partially wishful thinking because this is the way I've always loved basketball. Is team basketball, and I think that's the Nuggets. Nuggets are built, and I've said this, since the beginning of the season. The Nuggets are built for team basketball. We're not looking for a guy to take over. No, because we've got 6 guys, and we're going to look for the guy who has the shot.
Yeah, I get that, but. It's a high floor, low ceiling roster construction that way. What's the last team that won a championship that you can't think of they're the guy?
I honestly, truthfully, I would put the Spurs. Yes, they have Duncan, and yes, they had Kawhi. But if you look at the way they played, it was.
All right.
It was that.
Here's my rebuttal. They played like they didn't have a guy in 2013, and they lost. The guy showed up being Kawhi in 2014, and then won every game by a margin of 15.
I mean, there's that part there. I'll put, I'll throw in there, and he may not like it, but the Mavs.
Dirk was by far the guy.
He was a focal point, but he wasn't like, oh my, it wasn't like when we look at LeBron taking over a series. Or when
Dirk was by far the guy. The closest thing I can think of.
The Pistons?
And I would argue, when it came down to it, Chauncey was the guy.
Well, there's maybe one. Yeah, there's a guy that maybe consistently comes up, but it was a true full team.
But I think the Pistons is the closest, and the Pistons basically won that championship. They won basically because the Lakers imploded. I think it's a high floor, low ceiling move to not have one of those the guys. Speaking of people who see themselves as the guy,
I don't think he doesn't see himself in the guy. If we're going to go on, which I think you're going to, you want to switch to Draymond.
I'm talking about Booker.
Well, no, he doesn't.
Booker has been the guy. The problem is the other guys around him and the organization around him has been an issue.
So if you missed it today, let me see if I can actually pull up ESPN if they've got the full quote. Locally in Phoenix, this blew up sports talk radio. It was great. But Draymond said on TV, filling in for I think Shaq, said that they mentioned how great Booker was doing in the bubble, and then he goes, "Yeah, he's doing great. He's awesome. He's doing great. We got to get him out of Phoenix." And it was one of those things, it was just kind of like, wow. And then literally, I think it was Ernie who responded, "That's kind of a little bit of tampering there, isn't it?" And he goes, "Well, maybe." And he just kind of went off and did Draymond things.
Which, by the way, Draymond is setting himself up to be a well-paid TV guy after he retires.
Oh, yeah. But yes, that came through. And it was fun. I had a weird kind of response because, again, I was listening to it locally here in Phoenix. And the response, I was almost convinced because they said, well, why would he go anywhere? He just signed a max contract. They've got Ayton, another young superstar. They're bringing in veteran free agents and they're looking to build decent free agents. They brought in a great coach.
Fantastic coach.
Why would he want to leave? And for a second there, I was like, yeah, why would he want to leave? But it only took a second before I remembered. Oh, wait, Sarver is the owner.
Yep.
All of those good things that I just listed, he can walk in the office tomorrow and say, get rid of them all. I'm done paying for it. And it would shock no one. I've got some friends who are Phoenix Suns fans that might hate that take, but to quote a great movie character, search your feelings. You know it to be true. It's a possibility. I hope it doesn't, but that's an absolute possibility.
And I hate this cloud coming over Phoenix right now as they are killing it in the bubble. They are killing it in the bubble. DeAndre Ayton is putting and I will own this. I was one of those people that when people compared DeAndre Ayton to Patrick Ewing, I was like, yeah, offensively, yeah, but man, this dude couldn't play defense at Arizona to save his life. And
that's not Pac-12 basketball playing defense.
Yeah, well, and I was like, this dude couldn't play defense for anything. I'm like, he's got a good jump shot. Maybe needs to stretch that out to three. He can rebound the ball. But I was like, he doesn't look like he understands how to play defense. And sometimes that's hard to touch. And I remember saying he is never going to anywhere be a positive on the defensive end. I am here now saying I own that I was wrong. And whatever Monty Williams and Corliss Williamson has done to his defensive mindset is is just flat out one of the biggest turnarounds on one end of the floor that I've ever seen from someone.
So maybe giving you an out here, but this is just something I've noticed, and I'll be the first to say I haven't watched as much basketball as I've watched the other sports. I know there are a bunch of other guys on the pod, a bunch of other guys in our chats that watch an insane amount of basketball, but I do keep an eye on other things. I do wonder how much of anything we can actually take. What is the bubble? Is the bubble actually giving us any? Are these games giving us any actual usable information? Can we make judgments on any player? Is this such a weird circumstance and situation where teams are both playing and not playing and doing and all of these different things? Is there any information we can actually gather from the bubble?
Well, okay, so basketball is streaky, and I'm not wanting to take away from what you're saying, but Ayton was on this defensive turnaround since he came back from suspension.
Yeah, he was. I was just trying to give you an out. I wasn't specifically talking about Ayton, but I'm just talking about all
of them. But if you want to pivot there, I don't know how much the bubble gives us because the bubble has all been about what team is in the best shape. Houston showed up in shape. The Raptors showed up in shape. And they've been winning, and both of those teams have been winning games they probably shouldn't, just based on the fact that they're the teams that are in shape. They're the teams that aren't missing defensive rotations like they should, like other teams are, because they're just in shape. They're the teams that aren't missing offense. Offense has been really big in the bubble, really easy because I'm sorry, when you're all quarantined and all these guys have a basketball court in their house, they can spend 8 hours a day shooting. Like they're shooting mechanics they could stay in shape with. But you're not going to get around to work on defensive rotations. You're not playing live against someone to get that timing right. And so all of that's going to be a little off until I personally think until probably second round of the playoffs.
We'll see what happens. Like I said, I think there's a huge portion of it that I feel like the top teams, I don't know how much they care right now.
I think it's absolutely worthless to try to draw any inference from a Bucks or a Lakers game right now.
Like I just don't that, and then even the other stuff. It's like no, we're doing other things. We know we're gonna be We're gonna be one of the top 4 seeds, and
I honestly think you're gonna see teams like. I think you're gonna see teams like Houston, Denver, and probably Utah in that group there. Houston, Denver, Utah, Oklahoma City. You might see teams trying to throw games to land in the 4-5 seed rather than get to the 3-6 matchup so they can face the Lakers before the Clippers. Because the Lakers have looked bad, and with their guards opting out or being hurt, the Lakers are going to be easier to knock off in a second round than the Clippers by far.
So, and there's that. It's one of the things we might get into this a little bit. The NBA, way the NBA does playoffs, the fact that you can do these little weird things to try to manipulate where you are, and it happens in other sports, but I feel like it happens every year, and it's just a huge constant thing in the NBA, and it bugs me because to paraphrase another great man, you're supposed to play to win the game. That's what you're. I know
you're supposed to play to win the game, but the end goal is to win those 7 games, to win 4 out of the 7 at the end of the year.
Yeah, but you got to try to win. But it is just kind of crazy. The trend I'm noticing in the bubble is games that start – and most games, again, I haven't watched as many, but I've seen is one team gets up by double digits. The other team comes back and gets up by double digits. And then the other team comes back and gets up by double digits. And then the other team comes back and gets up by double digits. And games don't actually start until the fourth quarter.
I'm noticing a lot of that, not just in the bubble games.
I mean, that is a thing that happens a lot. But like, I've noticed it so much more. Like before, I'm going to get one of the game, but I remember at the very beginning, I'm so angry at myself because I've got no proof that I did this, but I should have sent the message because I thought about it. I wanted to send the message that this game is going to be for the Lakers Clippers. This game is going to be back and forth until the final minute. It's going to be one team is going to start dominating, and then the other team will dominate, and then the other team will dominate. And that's been just kind of because it's not just like get better. It's like, no, or, come back and you stay even for a bit. Like, no, it's like leapfrog. Like, you're here and you're better than me. I'm going to get much better than you. And then you're going to get – that you finally get to a middle point. And in the fourth quarter, better teams either pull away, or if you're close teams, you stay together for a while. It's just kind of a weird dynamic that I'm just seeing happening.
But we're seeing that a lot. Like, even as we're speaking, the A's were way up early on in this game, and the Astros just brought it back to extras. Like, we're even seeing this in baseball.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's –
and we're just – I don't know. It's just – and I'm seeing – we saw a ton of fourth quarter comebacks last year in football too. Like, I don't know if it's just people have – I don't know what is going on, if it's just the idea of crunch time glory just has gotten people's brains so much that they just want to make a push there at the end, or people are pacing themselves so they can actually put their best forth at an end of games all the time. I'm not sure, but it's a trend that's going across in all sorts of sports.
But anyway, yes, with time we can move on. So the MLB, has been going on a little bit, focusing on the positive sides of the MLB, because
the positive sides, because there's a lot of bad positive sides going on around too.
There's that, yeah, and there are 5 teams. There are 5 teams that no one, even as a fan of one of those teams, like no one really saw, going here. Now, one of them is kind of a weird one. With the Marlins, because they missed a bunch of games, but looking at the standings, as of right now, the AL East, okay, cool. The Yankees are up toward the top. All right, cool. We all saw that coming. But second place is Baltimore. Now they've got a losing record at 6-7, but this year the top 2 teams in each division make it to the playoffs.
Yep.
Baltimore, no. It would not have been crazy for you to predict that Baltimore wouldn't have won a game by now. Like, that would not have been out. That's more likely than them being 6-7, I feel like.
Baltimore employed Chris Davis too recently for me to think they would be this good.
Like, that Baltimore was supposed to, like I said, I mean, having them be winless is possible. I mean, and then combine that on the other side there, that Boston is 5-8.
Yeah.
And I know they've done a lot of weird things, but they're still.
Well, let's be honest. The 2 teams involved with the more recent signals of signage have struggled a little bit.
I mean, you guys are at 6-6. The Astros are at 6-6. The AL Central, that's the next division. AL Central, I mean, that was kind of a toss-up division anyway. I mean, I think the Twins were kind of expected to be good. They were up and coming really good last year, going through, but still, it's Minnesota Twins, and unless you're a Minnesota Twins fan, like, to see Minnesota Twins at the top of the standings is kind of unheard. And not just top of the standings, the Minnesota Twins have the best record, the best record in baseball. Technically, Miami does have a higher percentage, but I'm going to put an asterisk on that one.
Yeah.
But then beyond that, the White Sox were supposed to be nothing, and the White Sox are sitting there at 8-6, going through. And these are the live scores at the moment, by the way.
Yeah.
So games that are happening and changing right now haven't added. But then Oakland, Ariel, raise your hand if you had Oakland being first place in the AL West. Yeah, if your hand's up, you're an Oakland fan, and even you probably did not have them be in first place in the AL. Like,
I thought they could sneak in and be the number 2 seed.
But Houston's kind of there-ish, that spot there. But I always thought Texas was going to be a little bit better. but that's just
I
kind of
really thought Joey Gallo was just going to rampage the ball. And Joey Gallo's been okay, but everyone else in Houston not been good. Kluber hasn't been pitching as well as I thought he would. Actually pitching as a whole.
Pitching has been a weird year for pitching, but think about it, Oakland's got a plus 15 run differential.
Yeah, they've been awesome.
That's crazy. And then we've got the NL East, where there's some weirdness going on. Atlanta, we kind of sit there, but at the moment Miami's sitting 7-1. So I mean, it's not they've played anywhere near as many games as anyone else, but still they've played 8 games and they're 7-1.
Mm-hmm.
Who saw? Again, when I talk about teams that you expected to not win a game.
But you know what? Miami was used to not playing in front of fans.
Yeah. Yeah, but Pittsburgh is doing horrible too. So, I mean, is doing horrible. But, they're right in there. Philadelphia kind of fallen off. I mean, again, they missed a number of games, but still 3-4. The Cubs, yes, we all probably kind of saw the Cubs coming there, but the Cubs only have a plus 7 run differential. They're 10-3. They've only got a plus 7 run differential.
Yeah,
that's not great. That's winning. That's winning games by a run, which wins a win, but still, that's coming down there. Milwaukee, I expected a little bit better from Milwaukee, but then mine. I mean, wear my homer hat here for a minute, but yes, they're tied for number of wins with the Dodgers, but the Rockies are first place in August. You know how many times I've ever seen the Rockies first place in August?
And I've been 0.
Their entire length of their season. I don't believe I've ever seen the Rockies in first place in August.
To be fair, the Dodgers have cared more about throwing at people than actually throwing strikes. So
it was just one game. But I mean, 9-3 versus 9-4. Yes, the Dodgers have played one more game, but still, they're right there. And yes, they've got I believe they had the 2 highest run differentials, or Twins do, but 2 of the 3 highest run differentials in baseball are in the NL. Like, the Rockies have a run differential of plus 24.
Yeah, it's
like they're hitting the ball, and the Rockies pitching has been, oh my goodness, like. Then what?
Our been really weird this year.
Our bullpen's off. Now, our pitching, I will say this, is somewhat as a biased Rockies fan, but the pitching, our pitching fell off last year, but most of our pitchers had a really great year the year before.
That's true.
So they had an off year, but it was like none of that thing of like, okay, guys, you've had your off year. Mm-hmm. Okay, now it's time to come back. So, I mean, and it's a young group of starters.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be very, very interesting, kind of seeing that. But it just it's crazy. And then Arizona, I'm really shocked that Arizona is the bottom of the NL West. Like, that's shocking.
If I'm not mistaken, though, they've played a lot of tough teams.
I mean, they played the same kind of teams that everyone else in that kind of – I mean, they played – I know they just finished a series. They won their first series against the Astros.
Yeah, but
it's been San Diego, the Astros, and LA.
Yeah, but they're probably I would venture to say the whole regional, as opposed to playing a lot of in-conference games. They're in league games. Mm-hmm. The playing a whole bunch of interleague games with people in your area. I think that's probably hurt the Diamondbacks a lot more, and people in that lower. I think it'll hurt the Diamondbacks and the Mariners. Those kind of ones that were obviously lower than all the others in their divisions to begin with.
I mean, that's the Diamondbacks were second in the NL West last year. The Diamondbacks made a playoff push. Now it fell short, but they made a playoff push last year. And they made decent free agent, but they're sitting there with minus 26 run differential.
Yeah, but they're pitching. like their pitching was well, didn't they have some massive injuries and people that they were
They've lost. Their pitching has not been what it's supposed to be. Their pitching is
like
and I mean that's why they're where they're at. But going in as far as expectations goes, like
I can see that. It's just I think that you can get really beat up in both the AL and NL West if you let up.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can really get beat up in those divisions. Speaking of people that can beat you up in those divisions, Albert Pujols is closing in on Willie Mayes.
He's closing in. He's maybe coming in as a hitter. I would still, if I'm ranking players, he's not near Mayes.
No,
he's not. I know some people say that. Like, I look at it, and Mayes to me is in a conversation for GOAT as far as baseball GOAT. I'm not going to do it. I don't know who I actually put that name in there. And also, I will say this, that there's baseball GOAT and there's pitcher GOAT.
Yeah.
Just because they play in the same game doesn't mean they play the same sport. Like, that's a completely different.
On the topic of GOAT, free Pete Rose.
One guy is on both of those lists. I mean, I think close, which is kind of fun. But Babe Ruth, he's an excellent pitcher. Everyone forgets how great a pitcher he actually was.
And just recently, we had Steven Lorenzen, he did something that only Babe has done. I think it was last year. Lorenzen did hit a home run, get the win on the mound, and have an outfield assist in the same game.
Yeah.
So. I think.
But yeah, Pujols is coming close, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm actually disrespectful. I love Albert.
I hate Albert. I hate him.
You would.
I hate him.
But he had opportunities, and he's never been linked. Really, I don't think he's really been ever linked to any steroid stuff.
No. That's part of the reason I hate him. Like, if he had done steroids and destroyed my childhood, I would have probably forgiven him. But let's just take you back to NL division or NL championship series. Young, I believe I was in 6th grade at the time. Jonathan. And my favorite player, Brad Lidge, is on the mound. Brad Lidge is by far the best closer in baseball at that point. Like, by far better. Now, Chapman would eventually have a longer career and have a longer peak and whatever, but Lidge was destroying that year. And Brad Lidge let up for a second and hung a slider, and I do not think that ball has dropped yet, and we're approaching like 11 years later. I do not think that ball has hit the ground yet, and we're almost 15 years later. It was 2006, I believe.
No, yeah, Pujols is special. Like, Pujols is in those conversations with the great. Like, he can sit at their table at the cafeteria. There are many guys from the modern game, just because of either various things that they did or various kind of ways to handle stuff. No, you can't be in that club. But Pujols absolutely gets to be in that club.
Pujols is also a high character guy. I make the joke that I hate him, but Pujols is one of those guys that even when he plays for the other team, he just plays with this type of joy. He's one of those guys, not quite like Beltre, but kind of in that same kind of category. He
has so much
joy.
Fun. He's always having fun when he plays.
Yeah. And I remember when he was like 23, 24, and they were talking about how he was on pace to hit 900 homers. I mean, obviously he slowed down, especially with the injuries and switching leagues and all those things. And it's sad, but I'm glad he's still hitting 6th for a team that's in a playoff push. And yeah.
It's fantastic. I said, in my mind, I won't put him over Mayes.
No.
It's fantastic that he's there and we're actually there. And we can start talking about guys that you can be happy about breaking home run records. But we're going to kind of close it out a little bit. But one thing I actually want to go through, I'm going to get news because even if you aren't a hockey fan, there's one team that I think you expect and know is good.
I know when Vin told me this, I was shocked.
And that's the Pittsburgh Penguins, right? You guys all know the Pittsburgh Penguins are a fantastic team. The Pittsburgh Penguins are out of the NHL playoffs. They're done. They lost their play-in game. Now, Grant, I mean, they haven't had as good a season, but still, this is a postseason, and technically the postseason has started. The Stanley Cup playoffs has started, but this is a postseason without Sidney Crosby.
It's just weird.
The greatest player of his generation. But now you're giving out Ovechkin as a chance to get to gain a little bit of ground. I mean, I hope not. There are teams I would much rather, both as an Avs fan who could face them in the Cup, but then if someone else has to win it, there are many other teams I'd rather it be than the Caps. But Ovechkin's got a shot to actually kind of gather
some momentum.
Yeah, that's just crazy. Yeah, that they're out, and Arizona's in I mean, it's a completely different conference, but Arizona's in, which is.
I think that's part of the hesitance of the NBA to do that style of a tournament to go into their playoffs was results like this.
Well, I mean, so the other thing, I mean, the thing about the bracket, like I said, the Penguins were the first team out of the guaranteed spot.
Yeah.
I mean, so there is a little bit of that, and then Arizona was the second team that almost would have gotten left out of the playoffs. So that is a big upset. But the way they built it, I mean, I love this. I really do wish that the NBA tried to do something like this with those submit your top 4 seeds and then have them play for those play it, because it makes those games matter. It makes those things really matter, and let the rest of these guys duke it out and let there be some crazy upset.
I think
Especially
it'll be
with the NBA,
the part that'll be worrying though. The part that'll be worrying though is some of those teams that didn't really have to try in that top 4. I mean, I know they did the round robin to determine where they were, but I just don't know that. Like you're gonna see at least one of those teams get upset because they didn't get into shape.
I don't know if it will necessarily be because it won't be that, because they're playing almost as. I mean, it's a best of 5, but it doesn't look like many of these series are going to go 5. Most of these series have gone 4, whereas and then those 4 playing, they're going to play 3. So yes, they're not going to necessarily playing as many, but they're still getting the play. Going through it, I think some teams are kind of looking at it like the Avs played Dallas. And they did not play their top goalie. Dallas did not. They played another really great goalie, but the Avalanche – actually, if you go find the meme, the Avalanche killed him. The guy gave up. He spent that third period, he was laying down the ice. He spent a lot of times laying on his back, wishing he was elsewhere. Yeah. And it wasn't so much that he was playing bad. It's that he was just getting utterly shelled. Nathan McKinnon did not score a goal, yet was still unhandily without a doubt the best player in that game. And he just got lucky, or the goalie just got lucky and stopped McKinnon's shots. McKinnon was just just hounding him. So there is parts of kind of that where they didn't play their best goalie. But so yeah, there's little bits of that. But I think it would have just been so good but you guys said it wouldn't have been one of those cases that the Lakers magically lose to someone else. No, it would have been, I don't know, actually based on the seed. So 5th, we went up to 12. It would have been, so the 6th seed losing to the 11th seed would have been closest to Utah losing to
Sacramento or something. I don't know.
I don't even know if it would have been Sacramento. Utah losing to Portland. It wouldn't have crushed anything. It wouldn't have blown anything out. Like I said, anything, I mean, it would have given there. And again, there were other teams that didn't make it. So I really think there was a missed opportunity to make games matter. But then I also wonder if they didn't actually want the games to matter as much.
I think they wanted people to play into shape and then playoffs to be good.
But yeah, so that's just it's just a crazy perspective. It's a crazy thought of looking at that we're going to have an NHL playoffs without the Pittsburgh Penguins,
which feels like the first time in a very long time.
It is. I mean, again, they technically made it. And the only reason I really know that is because the Avalanche scored a goal in the closest to end of regulation time ever in Stanley Cup playoff history.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't got a chance to watch that play, again, even if you're not a hockey fan, go look at it, because the puck literally crossed it. They were saying there, like, we don't know for a fact that it's the latest goal ever scored, but we can know for a fact there isn't a later one.
Mm-hmm.
And they told up that even though the official records all don't get down to points, but you still know what it would point. The next closest in the Stanley Cup playoffs was 0.2. This one was scored at 0.1, but really it was probably more like 0.0001. The frame clicks and it's 0.
Yeah.
It goes through. It's just a fantastic moment if you get that. And that's what I think. That's one thing I just love about hockey is it.
Hockey's super fun to watch. Super fun to watch.
Again, give it a shot, please. Watch hockey.
That feels like a great refrain for us to end on tonight. Watch hockey.
Watch hockey. There's some great games tomorrow. Avs playing Vegas for the number 1 seed in the West. Like, that's going to happen. And that should be a fantastic game.
All right.
We'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right.